You know, in this industry, there are artists, there are legends, and then there are the ones who change the entire game. My guest today is all three. He's the guy who turned a YouTube channel into a university for tattooers, the artist who makes chrome and gold look so real you'd swear it's welded on, and the Ink Master contestant who saw behind the curtain and lived to tell the tale. But this conversation, it's not your typical polished interview. We're going way back to the very beginning, to a 14-year-old kid with a homemade prison-style tattoo machine, tattooing in his mom's basement, completely unaware that you even needed rubber bands on your needle bars. We're getting into the raw, unfiltered truth about the state of the industry, the brutal reality of oversaturation, and exactly what it takes not just to survive, but to dominate. This is Pony Lawson, completely uncut. We talk about the 23-hour days filming his tattoo competition, the real reason his supply company failed, and we even get into the controversial role of AI in your next tattoo. So if you're ready for a masterclass in building a legacy from the ground up, let's get into it. This is the business of tattooing. Pony, what's up, dude?
What's happening? How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Sweet. Good deal.
I'm good. Can you hear me good?
Oh, yeah. Perfect. I love your little setup. That's great, man.
Thanks, dude. I'm trying to take after you.
Yeah, right. That looks great. That looks awesome. You're doing
You're
great.
the hella professional here.
We both are.
Well, hey, dude, you know, every time I see you, man, all I can think is how good your hair looks.
Likewise, I could say the same. Best haircut there is.
Dude, how's life been?
Good, man. Can't complain. I've got a tattoo convention coming up this weekend in Milwaukee. Just got back from Golden State not too long ago. And I love conventions. So, like, if I'm at a convention, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I see that a lot. How was Golden State? I heard some mixed reviews this year.
I mean, for me, it's always good. I never have a bad time there. I always get to talk to a lot of people, meet a lot of new people. From what I heard from a couple of people that were there, it wasn't as busy as it usually is, but I don't know if there was another convention going on or what. But I know it's not a show for everybody.
Yeah, how do you feel about just conventions in general? I mean, as far as like, you know, over the last couple of years, really since COVID, you know, have you seen, because you've been doing conventions for a really long time, you know, so like, have you noticed like a general decline in like artist presence, foot traffic? You know, what are your feelings on that? You know, how do
Sure.
you think conventions are today?
I mean, specifically after COVID, I mean, there was a drop off. Like I've been to a couple that were not busy at all, but I mean, I still had a good time. I'm there, but I don't know. The only thing different I can say about like from 20 years ago to now is just that there's a lot more. So everybody's splitting their time, you know, in different shows. Like I think this weekend is Richmond and also Milwaukee. So not everybody's going to the same one anymore, you know. So I think that could affect, you know, walk through traffic or whatnot.
Yeah. So interesting, like you know, I've been talking to just a ton of artists all over the world, really. I mean, and it's just kind of I'm starting to make some correlation here, you know, as I'm talking to artists, I'm really kind of starting to I like this podcast just because it gives me a really good general perspective on the overall health of the industry, regardless of who the artist is, you know, because like
Oh, sure.
some artists that I talk to are super busy. I mean, for one reason or another. Other artists I talk to are just kind of, you know, used to being booked out for months and now they're like maybe booked out for a couple of weeks and they're scrambling trying to get clients through the door. So
Sure.
it's been a really interesting time as of, you know, the last, you know, 6 to 8 months or whatever, say, since really what I would consider a decline in the tattoo industry, like noticeable, right? And I've started kind of figuring some things out and really getting a true understanding of why things are the way that they are. But in your opinion, I think, what do you think is some of the main contributors to the slowdown?
I mean, that's a tough one. I think there are a lot more tattooers out there now than there used to be. Um, so I think there's a lot more competition, you know, and a few years ago, I would always say that there is going to be some kind of bubble, like when it slows down, the people that aren't staying as busy or pushing themselves as hard are going to kind of fade out or get different jobs to make ends meet and whatnot. But that's why I think it's also important to, you know, stay ahead of the curve, try and do whatever you can to keep your name out there, keep your face out there, and just do whatever you can. Because yeah, it's like, I mean, everybody has a private studio now. They're doing tattoos for dirt cheap. So it's just like to the layman, they're going to go for the cheaper one rather than somebody who's been doing it for 25 years, just because of affordability.
So oversaturation is a problem. I've noticed that, but I didn't want to put those words in your mouth. I kind of wanted to see if you were going to say that, but
No, sure. And I'm not saying like I don't mind it. I think competition is great. You just have to, how to compete in that setting.
do you think it's the same in the convention circuit that there's too many conventions? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I guess it's similar in the way that there are so many that it's, if there's two conventions, one on each coast, people aren't going to travel to the other coast to go to that convention when there's one, just a couple hours away. But that's why you have to set yourself apart. Same as being an artist, same as hosting a convention. It's you want to make the convention that people want to go to.
Yeah. How do you choose the shows you go to versus one over the other?
Half of them are conventions I've been to before and I really respect and love. Like Hell City is always at the top of the list because I love that show. And I know Derb hosts an amazing show. It's always going to be a good time. The artists that are there are going to push you to do harder because they're all hand selected. They're phenomenal at what they do. And I just went to the one in Arizona, and I always put that one off because I heard it was an artist retreat, and I was like, I don't want to go to vacation. I want to go, to tattoo. That's what I'm there
Right.
for. But that quickly became one of my favorite shows, and I see why people travel all over the U.S. or world to go there.
What did you like about Phoenix?
Um, just, I mean, aside from everybody there being fantastic, it's I don't know. It was really nice. It was like 105 or 115 degrees there during the day, but at the end, everybody like gathered around in one place, similar to Hell City, how everybody goes to that bar that's right outside the convention afterwards just to hang out and talk and whatnot. And in Phoenix, everybody was hanging around the pool talking and about their day or weekend or what they were doing. So it's you work all day and then you just get to decompress and talk to your peers at the end of the day. So that's what I like.
Yeah. So let's rewind a little bit and I mean, I would assume that most people know by now who Pony Lawson is. I mean, you've become somewhat famous in the tattoo industry now, be it just because of, your phenomenal tattoo skills, and also you've just recently completed a season of Ink Master. So you've also got a crazy popular YouTube channel and you're doing some crazy stuff on YouTube. So, I mean, your face is very much out there. You've done a really good job at promoting yourself and making yourself kind of a household name nowadays,
Well,
especially in
thank
our industry and amongst our peers. But rewind a little bit before all that, let's just go back to the very beginning of Pony Lawson's career. How did you start in the tattoo industry? What got you interested in tattooing? What's your background? Are you an artist before tattooing, and that carried you into tattooing? What does that all look like for Pony?
Sure. So if we rewind really far, um, I was always drawing as a kid because they were like that. It didn't grow up with a lot of money, like a lot of us do. And drawing materials were the cheapest things that you can get. Pencils are a dime. And when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my mom had this restaurant that she got the restaurant by selling her car to pay for the rent, and she used her food stamps to pay for the food that was there. So she ran it herself. She took the orders herself. She cooked herself, and we had a little apartment in back where me and my sister would stay, so she could check on us while she's working. But all that to say is, when she shut down the restaurant, she had this like super large roll of butcher paper. So it was just an infinite amount of paper. Me and my cousin would draw on, and when we were done with it, we'd just rip it off and keep it rolling. So there was all this an infinite amount of drawing paper that we could use, and me and my cousin would watch like Bob Ross and whatnot, or and obviously it's not the same as painting, drawing, but you just when you see art as a kid, it's just very influential. There was a couple art shows on PBS that I would watch a lot. Um, and even you probably remember those pamphlets that would air on TV that were like, you could be an artist too, draw this turtle or draw this house.
Yeah, I
So that
do
was more,
remember
that
those.
was, yeah, that were great. So that was free drawing material. You could just call in the number, they'd send you this stuff. So so art's always been around. Tried graffiti a handful of times. When me and my friends got our hands on some spray cans and whatnot. And then when I was 12 years old, in the sixth grade, uh, I was a bad kid, and I would go to Walgreens and I would steal those Jelly Roll pens. So I had like a really large amount of colored pens, and I was obsessed with Pogs. I mean, you probably remember Pogs as well. You're
Yep.
as old as I am.
Yep.
And so I got a Pog book for Christmas one year. So it was just filled with design. So now I had all these colored pens and this design book. And so I would draw those designs on paper. And then in the sixth grade, I would draw on my friends with those pens. And, they would buy me something from the lunch line or whatever it was. And it was just fun. So that transitioned easily to when I turned 14, is when my dad took me to my first tattoo convention and I got my first tattoo. I didn't know what I wanted. My dad was like, just put his initials on his arm. So that's what I got in this garage at this tattoo party. So I was walking around freshman year with my sleeve rolled up, because I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then when one of my friends saw it, he offered me a tattoo machine for $20, which I don't know why I was thinking it was going to be a real machine, but it was like a homemade prison style machine. But I bought it anyway for $20. I went that day. I took it home, and it was one where you just plugged into the wall. It didn't run on batteries or anything like that. You just plugged it into the wall, and it went. So I broke apart a couple big pens, emptied those pens out into whatever I had, wrapped a needle in some sewing thread, put it in that machine, and then I just started messing up my friends. So I technically started at 14. At 15, I was working at a coffee shop and saving up all my money to buy like a real machine. It was from, do you remember Superior? Tattoo
Yeah.
supplies or Superior? So
Mm-hmm.
I bought a wasp machine from Superior. I think it was like $95. It was pretty cheap. Um, and then I was continuing tattooing out of the house at my mom's place for a year or two after that. And the funny thing was, I didn't know that there was no TV shows back then. There was hardly any magazines. I think there was like 2, maybe 3 tattoo magazines at most. So I didn't realize that you had to have rubber bands around your needle when you're tattooing. So for the longest time, my needle was just bouncing around. My tattoos were like just disappearing. I'm like, what is going on? So I finally saw it in, I think, a Huck Spalding catalog where they had the rubber bands wrapped around it. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So then everything picked up a little bit from there. And then at 17, I got into this shop in LaPorte, Indiana. This guy, Woody, and we really hated each other at the time because I was tattooing out of my house. And I doubt I was competition to him because he was a real tattoo shop, but he's like, don't go to Pony, he sucks. And I'm like, well, fucking Woody sucks, So we just had this back and forth. We never met each other until one day he came through Little Caesars where I was working. And then he offered to take me under his wing and show me some things, show me how to do things properly, how to work in a shop environment, scrub tubes, make needles, the whole 9 yards. So I was still pretty young, during that. I would go to the bar next door to buy him, beer or whatever at 17, but they knew who I was because I was working with Woody. So they, allowed me to go in there and buy the stuff. But anyway, yeah, I really appreciate what I had. It wasn't a technical apprenticeship because I was already making money from my friends before I got into the shop. But he taught me everything that your typical apprentice should know. I still did everything, all those jobs. I just was already tattooing at the time, but he kind of refined those skills.
Yeah. How long did you stay working with him?
It was at least a couple years. I'd say maybe 2.5 years or so. And I love and appreciate what he did. It was just not the greatest environment for me. There was a couple shops around the area that were about 30, 40 minutes away. Again, because tattoo shops weren't that big back then. But I saw what these people were doing and how far their tattoos were along, or just all the cool stuff they were making. And I'm like, I want to do that. So I had to muster up and tell Woody that I was leaving. And he was pretty pissed about it, rightfully so, because again, back then, every of the street shops that you worked at, like, you felt like their property. You know what I mean?
Right,
He taught
right.
me everything, and now I'm leaving him. So he was pissed off, and I don't know if that's rightfully so or not. But yeah, I went to this other spot in Valparaiso, Indiana, called Sacred Cow with Travis Littke. He's since passed away, but he taught me how to make like the straightest lines. Like if I had one little wiggle in my line, he'd be pretty upset about it. So he kind of refined those beginning skills that I had, and just really made sure my work was up to par.
Now, how long? So 14 we'll consider your starting point. So at what age did you go to work in Valparaiso?
So Valparaiso, I probably was maybe 20 years old.
Okay, so quite a long span of time in between there. So how did you find, I would assume your tattoos were super great when you were 14 years old. How do you when did your tattooing really start to improve? Did you get a good amount of improvement from going on your own to working with Woody? Did Woody help you elevate quite a bit from where you were?
Yeah, I mean, just because I didn't know how to run a machine proper, I didn't know what voltage to use or anything like that. So as far as like basic fundamentals go, he showed me the basic fundamentals, and from there was an acceleration, and then from going to Travis Littke's shop, there was another acceleration, just because he took a lot of pride in his work. It wasn't there was no more like, hurry up, we have somebody waiting in the lobby. You know, you got to hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, which is how Woody Shop was ran, you know. But so it was two different environments, and I learned a lot from both of them. And with Travis, is it just I was able to take my time and make sure everything was as perfect as possible. Um, and then I bounced around a couple shops from there. I went to this other place in Portage called Burning Image. I don't know if you heard of Burning Image, but that was a wild one. You know, lots of like fist fights and whatnot, and just I don't know. It was
Okay.
yeah, it was nuts. But I don't know if it really improved until I got to Chicago, and then where walk-in business was just steady. You know, doing handfuls of tattoos every single day.
What was it that took you to Chicago? I mean, where did that come from?
Sure. So uh, I, at the time, I was working at this. Uh, it's called LKQ, where you tore down
Yeah, I'm familiar with
crashed
that.
cars. Yeah, okay.
Hmm.
So like I
Yep.
was working there for I don't even know how long, a year or two. And then that job was just taking a toll on me. I was also tattooing on the side. I had my little like shop basement because I had just left Burning Image or whatever it was. So trying to make my little tattoo shop in the basement, working at this car place to make ends meet. And then I just left that job. Didn't have anything going on for me where I was anymore in the town of LaPorte. And so I had a buddy, Max, who worked at uh, my buddy Gary's shop in Chicago, who's now my buddy Gary's shop. And so I went to go visit him because he was a piercer. And I got there and it was a beautiful shop. It was like the most beautiful shop I've ever stepped into. You know, it was in the only shop in downtown Chicago. I was like, this is insane. I can't believe you get to work here. You know, like how incredible. So I had all my stuff with me because I was doing tattoo parties, bouncing around, again, just trying to make ends meet. So I had my portfolio with me. I showed Gary and he hired me on the spot. So I stayed in my car for across the street in the alley for I think a couple weeks maybe, because it was convenient. I could just go to sleep, wake up, and go right to work, shower where I can. I had a couple friends around the area that would let me use their shower, and then yeah, I just saved up the money that I made from walk-ins, and then I ended up renting out this $500 a month bedroom in Humboldt Park, and then just kept trying to save my money and move on from there, go to different parts of the neighborhood. And yeah,
So you've been in Chicago ever since then.
that's correct. Yeah.
So how long did you stay at that shop then? How many years were you there?
So that one was, I love Gary to death. I still work for him, but I think he had trouble running a business on his own, you know, because he had a couple shops that just would end up getting shut down for non-payment of this, or the electric would go out. And it was just it started off really great. It was, you know, like I said, it was a beautiful shop. It was amazing. I just don't know if he was too focused on making good tattoos rather than like the business side of things.
Mhm.
So after that second one shut down, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. You know, I gotta go do things on my own. So like, you're more than welcome to come with me if you want, but I just gotta be a little bit more in control of my life because right now this is too unstable. So, and that was in 2013, 2014, somewhere around there.
Okay. And so then did you ever gravitate towards a specific style? Were you like really honed on one particular style in the very beginning, or were you kind of always a diverse artist, just kind of taking on whatever came in front of you?
So I definitely took on whatever came in. Like if somebody wanted the most outrageous shit, you know, I would try to do my best to draw out what they'd like. And if they didn't like it, you'd redraw it. So that was my upbringing, was just, you know, tribals and butterflies, whatever you want, I'll make happen. But I always had a desire to make portraits because I was always drawn to realistic stuff because, you know, from a young age, I just had pencils. So I would always try to draw things that I saw, you know, and in art class, I'd be drawing my shoes. Like I said, Bob Ross was a little more on the realistic side, even though it was painting.
Mhm.
But I always liked faces because I thought those were the most impressive. So even when I first got to Gary's shop in Chicago, I was probably undercutting the other artists there a little bit. You know, somebody would come in and want a portrait, and I'm like, I'll do it for $300 or whatever it was. And I remember this one artist who I love dearly. His name is Rob Good. He's like, portraits start at 600. You know, he was so upset that I was doing it for so cheap, but I just wasn't thinking about it from his point of view. I just wanted to get them in and do them so I could have more and more practice. But it's always been, portraits were like the number one thing that I wanted to strive for, just because you have to be perfect in executing them, you know, and I always strived for perfection.
Yeah. When did you start doing the micro portraits? I mean, when did you really start? When did you identify that as something that was going to be like a signature tattoo for you?
Sure. I mean, that was all an accident. That was I don't remember what convention I was at, but somebody wanted a portrait, and I told him I didn't have time for a full size one, but I was like, maybe I can make it a little smaller and go from there. I can simplify it. And it was this little Mac Miller portrait. He was like yay big.
Yeah.
And at the time, that probably took me like 2.5, 3 hours. And then somebody else wanted one. They thought it was cool. And then, you know how that goes. It's just a snowball effect. But nowadays, those portraits still take me just as long as a bigger one. I thought I'd maybe saved a little time here and there, but it's just, you're doing the same strokes. It's just on a smaller scale.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because you hear a lot of people like talk shit about micro portraits, and they'll say like, "Oh, that's not going to heal well over time." It's stupid to do portraits that small. How do you find a way around that? I mean, how did you really perfect that and get around those? Have you ever, like in the very beginning when you started doing those, were you having problems, after you'd see that tattoo after a couple of years? Did you notice that it wasn't healing well? Did you have to really work to refine that style to get a really good, long lasting tattoo?
Sure. So the two of the things that I noticed were, I think my earlier on ones would end up fading out a bit rather than blurring together, because I was trying to be delicate with them. So I had to like change some things, maybe make my drop system a little darker. But I hardly ever use solid black. It's just very dark because, I mean, as you know, the more pigment you push into skin, the more chance it has to spread. That's why when you're like outlining a fine line lettering, you don't want to use a solid black. You want to just dilute a little bit so that way it's got some room for that ink to move around in the skin. So I do think smaller tattoos get a bad rep. But luckily, I tattooed my friend Tom, who I work with at the shop. He's got a Jimi Hendrix tattoo from about, I want to say 7 years ago. So I can still check in on it from time to time, and see how that's doing. But of course, you have to be careful when it comes to the pupils and the eyes and stuff like that, because people always want to go for solid black in the eyes because they look dark. But of course, when it ages, that ink likes to spread. So if you just use like a 70% black, it still looks black, but it has a little more room to grow. So you just have to know how to use contrast and know how it's going to heal up. And it is good to see your stuff, from 5, 6, 7 years ago and make those changes. But yeah, I think that's just. And Rob Good, that guy that yelled at me for doing the cheap portraits, he also told me years ago that you could make a Michael Jackson portrait this big, with 3 lines and know it's Michael Jackson. So you have to know what to omit and what to keep in. You don't have to pack in every little tiny detail. As long as you get the important ones or the ones that matter, then it looks like that person.
Sure, sure. Does placement play any role in those tiny portraits? I mean, is there a time where a client comes in and says, "Hey, I want this little tiny portrait on this part of my body," and from experience that maybe that's not going to perform over time so well on that particular part of the body, and you kind of have to refocus them on a different part because this is a better area for something like that.
Sure. The only area I think that comes to mind is probably an outer forearm because it gets a lot of sun, so they're going to fade faster than like something on the inner forearm. But as long as I educate my clients beforehand and let them know that like sun can be a killer, and I always tell my clients if something, even the smallest little line falls out, like please come back in. They all update me with 1 week, 2 week, and 1 month healed photos. So after that month, I can tell how it's going. A lot of people still send me stuff after a year or 2 years even. And I'll always guarantee that if they want to come back and have me touch it up, it is my work and my name out there, so I want it to look as good as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say if somebody's traveling from California, where it's a little bit harder for them to get over to Chicago, uh, I'll still give them that same deal. Like come through and I'll touch it up for free, or maybe when I'm in California, I can touch it up. But yeah, I just try to avoid high sun areas because even though people say they'll use sunscreen, they don't, and that's the number one killer. But I haven't really had any issues with any other locations so much. You can sneak them in a little bit everywhere. Anywhere under the clothes is always going to perform best. That's not hitting the sun. But I think that's it.
Yeah, and you really commend you really on the metallic tattoos that you do because
Well, thank you.
I think you do it. You're definitely up there at the top in regards to like the tattoos that I see where people try to pull off chrome or gold or things like that. I mean, that's not a simple thing to pull off and make look good, and you certainly have done that well. What got you really interested in that style of tattooing? Like, where did that come from?
If I remember correctly, I think the first one was a metallic gold balloon dog.
I remember that one.
Yeah, if I remember right, I do think that's the first one. And then after that, there was a couple more. There was like a metallic gold balloon unicorn, maybe. And then my buddy M suggested a gold butt plug. And then that's where I feel like I really got to take my time and refine some things. And even in that one, if you look at it today, I think it's been about 2 years. I think gray wash outlining is very, very, very important. So if you look at that one today, healed, the colors that are in the gem are so close to each other, but because there's a gray wash outline separating them, it still has a very nice, sharp, edges to them. And I think, like I said, even gray wash outlining like a tiny portrait, it's something that you don't see, but you feel it. It keeps everything together. So I think that's probably something that I learned along the way. But yeah, and then from there, everybody wants gold tattoos or chrome tattoos now, which is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
they're super fun. They probably are some of the hardest ones I do, though. Especially the metallic gold. The chrome is a little bit easier because you can use black and white. It's not going to be so traumatic. But the gold ones, it's a lot of color packed tight, close to each other. So you just have to really finesse it, which makes me sweat most days. But we'll get it
Yeah, I
done.
feel like you really have to know some secret tricks to really get that to pop, So like kudos for figuring that out. And even saw you using some of that stuff on Ink Master too, which I thought was a cool little thing in there. So like talk about Ink Master a little bit. Not I don't want to get into like too much of the behind the scenes because it doesn't really matter, but like
Sure.
what really motivated you to want to go on Ink Master? I mean, what season were you on?
16.
Okay, so 15 seasons prior to you've seen this show. Have you been watching Ink Master the whole time?
No, there was like when it first came out, I definitely tuned in because I'm like, oh, this is a tattoo show. This is more tattoo. We didn't use the term content at that time, but I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to watch this. And of course, when you watch it for the first time, season one, when Billy Vegas and Shane O'Neill, it was a lot of drama. So I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate that they would show us in that light, but it's still the tattoo culture. So I still watched it for, I don't know, 3, 4 seasons, and then I kind of fell off for a long time. I think I caught back up at season 12 or 13, when I had when people that I knew were on the show, and then I was like, oh, I'll see how they perform, and it was still a little bit drama based. I'm happy ours didn't have that much drama. It was nice, but of course it is TV. That's how they sell you views, is by drama, so they have to have a little bit in there. But yeah, for the longest time, I would try out during season 1, 2, and 3. I was like, I want to be a part of that, whatever. But then I didn't get anything from it. So years pass. They finally kept trying to call me now or contacting me. And I'm like, no, I don't agree with the whole 6-hour time limit. There's a lot of things I don't like about it. It puts us in a bad light. But then I talked to my good buddy, Gian Carle, who was on 2 or 3 seasons. He came in second place twice. And he just told me, he's like, you got to do it, man. It's an experience that not many people get to do. So I was like, all right, that's fair. Not many tattooers do get to experience that, good, bad, or indifferent. But I'm super happy I did, because it is an experience. And when you're in it and you're talking to the clients, or canvases, as they say, they know what they're getting themselves into. They know it's a 6-hour tattoo from somebody that they have no idea who it is. It could be a first round pick. It could be for the finale. But they're all in it just for the experience, just as the artists are. So now I understand it quite a bit more.
Do you think Ink Master how much has it impacted your career since you've been on the show? I mean, has it brought you a ton of new business? Has it really got you, from here to here? I mean, how impactful has that show been for you?
That's a little harder to answer because I did have a YouTube channel for 5 years prior. I always tried to saturate myself in different areas of the internet or wherever. So the only way I know that somebody came from Ink Master is when they say it. They're like, I've been watching you since Ink Master. I've heard of you since Ink Master, and I had to get an appointment. Otherwise, I don't really know where they came from. You know what I mean?
But just from a broad, you know, let's just say, before the show, how long would you be typically booked out for?
So for a while, I was booking out a year, but that felt like too much. I couldn't make plans to go to conventions within that year, so I trimmed it down to like 3 months or so, maybe 4 months, and I'm still booked out 3 to 4 months. Maybe I'm just more selective, and there might be more people that are emailing, so I can choose to be more selective in what I do. Um, like I said, it's hard to tell because I'm not continuously booking out for so long. I'm not just stacking appointments on top of appointments on top of appointments. Um, So I guess one thing I did notice is when I go to conventions, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, I love your YouTube. I love this or whatever." And now maybe at least half of them are probably saying, "Oh, I love you on Ink Master." So even though they don't have an appointment, at least they're telling me where they saw me from, or you know what I mean. So it's I don't know. As far as business goes, that's a hard one to answer, but it's definitely maybe like what you said. It just helps you bring your name into the typical household or somebody that might not even have tattoos.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, specifically you. I mean, when I look at you, you're what I would consider an anomaly to what I think is normal in terms of social media performance per se. So like it, it's a really weird world that we live in today, right? It's like in social media land, you really have to cater to the algorithm to be able to get your stuff out in front of people, right?
Sure.
Most people do. Not
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone, but most people have to play by the rules of the algorithm. You are kind of an anomaly because I think you've kind of saturated yourself so much in so many different areas that you're kind of overcoming that algorithm riddle. You're not really playing by those rules so much because you've saturated yourself so many different places where if maybe you're not hitting on Instagram this week, but YouTube's hitting, or maybe
Sure.
YouTube's not hitting this week, but Facebook's hitting, or whatever. You've always got a bullseye hitting somewhere at any given time, right? So I don't think every artist has figured out how to do that, or necessarily that they have the drive and desire to do that, because the facts are the facts. I mean, you're working a shit ton of hours to produce all the content that you produce, right? I mean, it
Sure.
takes a lot of time to put yourself out there like that. I think that's what sets you apart and artists like you from the artists that are out there saying, "Oh, I can't get an appointment, I can't book." But I also think it's more than that. One thing that I've discovered in talking to people, and what I truly believe, is that for the most part, artists that aren't working are the ones that don't really know how to connect with their clients, whether that be face to face when they're in there getting tattooed by you, or whether that's how to present themselves on social media to attract a client to them, right?
Sure thing.
How do you feel about that? I mean, do you agree with most of that, or do you have a different spin on that?
No, I absolutely do agree with that. I think a lot of people they just don't know, so they don't know what steps to take to do that. Um, I myself, I just wanted to throw up all over the wall, all over everything. You know what I mean? So like going back a little bit, there was this website called tattooartist.org. So I guess back even further, when I would Google search best tattoo artist in Chicago, the pictures that I noticed that popped up were coming from this website, tattooartist.org. So I went and signed up for that website, and then I started uploading all my photos, tagging them with whatever I could. So then it started to change when I would Google that. Then my pictures started to pop up. So it's nobody's going to teach you this stuff. You have to go out and learn it. What you see is like, why are you seeing what you see on Instagram, on YouTube or whatever, and trying to figure out where that's coming from. Um, and then I also think getting your face out there is very important because nowadays, for the past 5 years or so, people want to be able to connect to an artist, not just get a good piece of work. They want to make sure that you're not an asshole or whatever. They want to have a good conversation while they're there and have a good time. It's now an experience rather than walking away with just a solid tattoo. So I think a lot of people don't even like to show their face. And again, I'm sorry to rewind again. With the tattoo magazines that came out years ago, I didn't know what Bob Terrell looked like. I didn't know what Nico Hurtado looked like unless they showed up in a tattoo magazine about conventions or they just so happened to have a spread, which wasn't very common. Um, but now I think when you can see somebody and you can relate with them a little bit, you know what they're into, that might cause that person to book with them. If somebody looks at my buddy Raf's work at the shop and they see that he loves Pokemon or X-Men or whatever, and then Raf's on video talking like, um, showing that he's not an asshole, like showing his personality. I think that's just a little bit easier for somebody to book with rather than them booking with somebody else. So I think it's super important to get your face out there. I know it's a bit awkward to look at a camera and talk to nobody, but just try it. I mean, that gets easier as it goes on. It's the first two videos you make might be troublesome, but it just gets easier.
Yeah, what inspired you to start a YouTube channel? And were you inspired by somebody else that had a YouTube channel or another tattoo artist that was doing something similar, or was that just kind of something you decided to do on your own?
No, that was just YouTube in general. I was big on just watching YouTube videos because it felt like more authentic content, whatever it was, whatever I was watching, it just felt more authentic because it was the person that was recording the video that was, there was no like overlord saying, don't do this, don't say this or whatever. So it just felt more real. Um, and also, I mean, I guess a little bit selfishly, I saw that it was um, a good way to make income. And now knowing that, I know that was a lot of fluff and lies because it cost me money to make YouTube videos. But so I was like, all right, I would get a lot of messages of people asking me to um, ask what they could do differently, like, why isn't their stuff looking like mine? And I would try to respond to all these guys separately because I want to help out as many people as I can. So it got to a point where I was like, all right, I'll just try out this YouTube thing. I'll put up a camera. I'll try to talk to the camera and just review 5 to 10 tattoos at once and then put it out on a video and whatever happens, happens. And so, of course, I tried it by myself for the first time. I click record on the camera. I say what I need to say, and then I go back and check it out. And it's like half of my head is cut off or something like that. No idea what I was doing using the camera audio rather than like a lavalier mic or, again, they didn't have the DJI mics at the time, I don't think. But it's just, I was trying to figure it all out myself, and that was a bit rough. So I went on to look for an editor or a videographer slash editor. And, I went through 2 or 3, and their idea wasn't what I was thinking. They wanted to turn it into like a highly edited series, like a funny series. And it's like, that's not what I want. I want it to be educational. I want to teach people, I know it sounds boring to you, but that's what I want out of it. So if this isn't aligning, then, I got to find somebody else. So I finally found this guy, Ryan, who I worked with for the past 4 or 5 years, who was fantastic. He knew what I wanted out of it. So at the beginning, I had to tell him to like maybe take this out of the video or change this or whatever. But he finally understood what I wanted out of it, and I didn't have to tell him anymore. So when the videos came through, I would just watch them. Cool, perfect. Let's upload it. But then as of, I don't know, 6 months ago, Ryan had to leave. So now I've got a new videographer, video director, editor. His name is Jeff. So it's kind of going through similar motions with him. Like he was never bad. He was great at it because he was helping out Ryan, and Ryan would show him what I liked out of the videos. But I think we're now getting to a place where he sees a little bit more what I would like out of a video, or if something's off, like he knows how to fix it before he sends it over. But having help is the biggest thing. And like I said, it costs a lot of money to put these videos out, but there's something to it when somebody comes up to you at a convention and say like, oh man, I love your apprentice videos. They helped me out so much. Or I've been watching since I was an apprentice, and I've been tattooing for 4 years now. Like there's something about that sits really well with me. I know a lot of people were secretive in what they would share years ago. They didn't want to tell you how to do this, or I think because they were afraid of the competition, like that you would take that information and then do better than them, and then they'd be struggling. But I don't think that's necessarily true. Again, because competition makes you better as a whole. So I would rather be somebody that teaches somebody how to do something than to be this artist that didn't teach them, and then that person forgets about that person and now they're a nobody. If you can teach somebody and help out, that person's always going to remember you for that. So I think that's pretty rad.
Why do you choose? Well, I commend you on the content that you make too, because like I said, it's excellent. I watch a lot of it. I get a lot of knowledge from you. It's interesting to see. I like to listen to all different artists' perspective on how they approach a tattoo or how they do certain things, or because there's all kinds of little tricks and things that you can learn from different people, and certainly people have mastered this craft a lot better than others have been able to. So it's really nice to be able to. I mean, that's how I learned how to tattoo. A lot. I would go out to an artist that I looked up to, and I would book a tattoo appointment with them, and I would sit in their chair and get tattooed by them, and I would pick their brain the whole time they were tattooing me. Like, why did you do this way? Why did you do that? And I would get an
Absolutely.
education like that. So it's really nice to be able to just click on YouTube at night and just be like, oh, I wonder what's Pony talking about today, or what's whoever talking about. So it's really awesome. But why did you decide to just make a channel where you just give this information away for free when you could easily be charging for apprenticeships? Why did you take that approach?
Sure. So dealing with an apprenticeship or dealing with an apprentice is, I don't know, that's a lot of work, man. And maybe from the other side of the coin, it's a lot of work doing the YouTube stuff, but having somebody that's there all the time and slowing down and trying to show them this, or it just seems like a lot of work. And, I've seen apprentices in shops for years, and a lot of times Not all the time, because you do have really good apprentices, but a lot of times they think they're ready faster than they are, or they want to take that information and just go elsewhere. So it's just like it's apprentices are can be weird, you know. So I would have an apprentice if it were like a diamond in the rough, if I saw value in them and I knew I could help them out along their journey. But doing the YouTube stuff, I can help, you know, hopefully thousands of people at once rather than just one person. And I just record 1 day a week, so it's like I'm not dedicating every single day I'm at work with an apprentice. I'm just doing it once a week, putting it out there, helping thousands of people. So the ratio seems a little bit more in that favor. You know, I forgot the second part of the question, but
No, I mean that covers both parts of it, I figure. How do you decide what kind of content you're going to create? Like, do you meet with your editor and do you guys kind of brainstorm some ideas, or do you do some research and kind of figure out where the gaps are at and try to fill the gaps, or how do you come up with those ideas?
so a lot of it's on the fly the day of. We do have our standard 4 videos that are like one's for an apprentice tattoos, one's for client tattoos, one's for artist tattoos, and one's for, what am I missing here? I don't know. Well, it's those 3, and then I also do TikTok videos and Reddit videos. So I think most people watch the apprentice videos because that's where they learn the most, because I can break down a little bit further. I can be a little more, there's just a lot more to learn because more people are making mistakes on those tattoos. So it's easier to point out. The artist videos, I can be a little bit more brash or honest, but they're still doing, for the most part, decent work. So I don't think there's as much to learn from those. The client videos, I have to be a little bit nicer because they're the ones wearing the tattoo. So I can be honest with them, but I don't want to completely, ruin their day by saying how terrible their tattoo is.
Right.
And then the TikTok videos are strictly for helping push the channel, because people like to watch train wrecks, and that's what TikTok is. So it's just like if you can put up a train wreck every 5 videos, that helps out the so-called algorithm, helps get people to your channel to watch the other videos. And same thing with Reddit. Reddit's just Reddit's an interesting place because there's lots of different subjects on that. Whereas like Reddit's mostly a dumpster fire, or I'm sorry, TikTok's mostly a dumpster fire. Reddit is more like they have a healed tattoos page or an aged tattoos page where you can see tattoos that have aged for 30 years, 20 years. They've got all sorts of different subcategories. So that's a little bit easier to pick and choose from. But as far as like what we're going to record that day, if we don't have anything new that we've thought of, we'll just resort back to those and just go down the line. Otherwise, we've had ideas like doing like tattoo news, because there's always something popping up, especially nowadays, where it's just like, the tattoo gate with the whole Fox design, or, some person just doing some crazy shit, or gatekeeping. There's always some sort of tattoo news that I thought it would be fun to like, put on a nice suit and, be like,
Yeah.
this is tattoo news, something. But that would take a little bit more effort than doing it day of. But we also like to do themes. So like Halloween's coming up, so we're going to do a Halloween episode this year, or like I love The Last of Us, the show and the game The Last of Us. So maybe we'll do The Last of Us series tattoos, or I'll push out on my story like a week ahead of time, like, hey, we're doing this next week. If you guys want to send over your Sesame Street tattoos or something like that. So it just gives a little bit of theme to them. But we're always trying to brainstorm and come up with new stuff, just because I don't know. It's you try to keep it fresh.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's just I've noticed that you have like, obviously you're doing the critiques, you're doing the educational piece, then you had the tattoo competition that you just did, which was super cool, I thought. How did you come up with that? I mean, where did that idea come from? Because that was like a that was a drawn out thing. You did that over a span of time. You had to go
Yeah,
select artists, get submissions. I mean, you got a shit ton of sponsors for that. That was crazy.
yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, I
Can't thank
mean,
those guys enough, because that was almost like $10,000 or more worth of stuff. It was
yeah, it was
crazy.
crazy. I couldn't believe. I was like, holy shit, man, Pony really got some serious gunpowder going into this chamber,
Yeah,
like
yeah, I had no idea it was going to be that way. I thought we might just get like maybe a machine from Bishop or maybe this, but it's like everybody wanted to be a part of it. And even when I was recording, like not an ad, but like a commercial for it, like, hey, this is our sponsors that we're having for this. Make sure to submit your tattoo. As we're recording that, 2 or 3 more people would hit me up and be like, hey, I want to give away a tattoo booth, or hey, I want to give away some shoes, or whatever it was. So it just kept piling on and piling on, and I was like, this is getting bigger than I thought it would ever get. But that actually started probably about a year and a half ago now. my buddy Adam Dean, who works at Dot Creative in New York, wanted to film a video together because he watched this YouTube video about this DJ who would go into a record store and pick out records, and then, you know, random blindfold records, and then he'd have to make a mix out of all three of those records. And he's like, what if we did something like that, but like with AI? So if you go back in time, the first tattoo challenge was an AI one where we had this wheel where the clients would spin it, and whatever it landed on, we had to put it into AI. So it could end up as like a Mortal Kombat character, you know, with a boombox, or a praying mantis with this, or a Ninja Turtle with this. So it was this weird combination of things that we had to put into AI, and, you know, we could fix it a little bit if we needed to, but then we presented 3 designs to the clients, and then they would pick their favorite design, and then we went from there. So it was a little more like relaxed. It was myself, Adam Dean, and Al Bursakov that did that one, and it was super awesome. We got a lot of good feedback on it. But then so me and Ryan wanted to continue that and do more throughout that next year. And then I went on Ink Master and came back. So a lot of people think that idea came from Ink Master when in reality it spawned before that. So we wanted to just kind of blow it out of the water. So it was myself, Ryan, Josh Allen, Jeffrey, Ryan, a lot of Jeffs and Ryans. But so the 3 videographers, myself, and then all the behind the scenes help, we had to hire an audio guy that was strictly there for the audio, and then you know, little helpers here and there. So it was a good group of like 10 of us or so trying to make this video work. And then it took 2 days of recording. The first day was getting to meet the contestants, having them spin the wheel so they can go home and drop their design. Because again, I wasn't trying to make it like Ink Master. I wanted the tattooers to do their best possible job. So it wasn't like, this is what you're drawing, you have an hour to draw it, and then we'll go from there. So they had all night to figure it out and draw it so they could make the best possible design. The next day they came in, I think I was there at like, I don't know, 6 a.m., probably left at 5 a.m. that same day. So it was 23 hours of work that next day. And I thought it was great, but I don't think my normal audience was there for that because the views just didn't hit, which is fine. So people keep asking me if I'm going to keep doing it, but it makes it very hard when it costs so much money, it costs a lot of time and effort, and you're not really getting anything back because all the sponsors that I had for that video went to the winners. You know, everybody got something, but there was no monetary value to I'm not going to say make it worth it, but it was just very hard when I couldn't, you know, when I was paying all the videographers out of my own pocket. The contestants were paying for their own hotels, you know, because I would like to eventually get to some point where I can pay for their flights, their hotels, pay for these guys without worrying about the money, and then still make something on the side. You know, that would be ideally a great situation, but I think I just need some extra help or something in making that happen, or just more sponsors, I guess.
Yeah. So I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, it was very unique. I love the way you guys, the AI idea was very unique. I mean, like, talk about crossing a bridge. You know what I mean? It's like, here we are in this age where AI is becoming so dominant in the whole entire world across every facet of our life and every business. I mean, it's just becoming completely saturated now. But here in the tattoo industry, we're still at this place where we're like, we're either embracing it or we're like ready to burn it down with torches still. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it's cool that you just kind of integrated that in and kind of made that part of the competition. I thought that was super cool. I love the mashup ideas, and it just kind of throws a different challenge in there, and, you know, puts 2 things together that just don't normally go together. And then as an artist, you got to try to figure out how to work with that, and also how to make your client be in love with it. You know, so
Sure, yeah, yeah. So luckily for that video that was, you know, a year and a half old with the AI thing, luckily 2 of the clients were tattooers. So they kind of understood where we were coming from, what we wanted to get out of it. The third client that we found wasn't a tattooer, and of course, he's the one that was like, how much longer? You know, my ride's on his way. I got to get out of here. So unfortunately, he kind of, not going to say he fucked up the video by any means, because it was still a fun video, but we couldn't do the judging of the tattoos like we wanted to at the end, because these other tattooers that were supposed to come by to judge and critique the tattoos weren't going to be there till later, but that guy had to get out of there. And he was complaining about having to get a $60 Uber ride home when he got a free tattoo out of it, got to be part of this video and thing. So it's just, he kind of put you know, it's kind of a bummer for him to do
put a
that. But
damper
so
on it a
with,
little bit.
yeah, put a little damper on it. So with the newer competition, we made sure that everybody was in it for the long haul. Like, you know, so it was a good learning process, that first video. So now we're like, listen, if you're signing up for this, you have to be available all day, no matter how long it takes to record. There's no going home until we're done, you know? So That made it a bit easier to work around. But yeah, it was fun.
So you don't think you're not sure if you're going to do it again, or you're kind of like committed to not doing it again, or where are you at with
No, I
that?
mean, I would like to. Initially, before the video came out, I wanted to do one every 3 months. So that way, on the fourth one of the year, I could have like those three winners come back and compete for a bigger prize. It just took a lot of effort and money, and I personally can't keep dishing out that amount of money to make it happen. If I could get some sort of, I know the audience will grow with it. It's just like I said, my normal tattoo critique audience isn't there for that, so it's just starting over. So it's a lot of money to dump into something if you're just starting over. So if I can figure out, maybe somebody that wants to help with that financially or whatever, where I can make that a possibility or get hookups at hotels or flights, that would be a bit easier because I'm down to do it again. It's just a lot.
So what did you learn from Ink Master in regards to, you know, did being on Ink Master help you make your own content better? Like, let me think like how I could say this in a way that it will make sense. Like, did you have a preconceived idea of what Ink Master might be like before you went on the show? And then when you went on the show, did you come away with some things to be like, oh yeah, I should do this, or no, I totally wouldn't do this if I was going to do my own competition? Did you apply any of those things into your own stuff?
I'm sure I did, even subconsciously, because I definitely had my own preconceived notion of what the show would be like before you get on there. That's why a lot of tattooers who watch the show that have never been on are always like, oh, I could have blown that out of the water. I could have done that. Why'd they make this choice? Until you're in it, and it's just a different world. So it's nothing like you'd expect, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. Just a lot of moving parts that are making it happen. Um, but I'm sure there are some things that I picked up coming home from it that I put into the competition. Just things like TV magic. Like I don't necessarily have to be here for this. I can record this later and put it in later. Or, it's just you try to make things move as easily as possible. Like for instance, I know this might be too into the woods on it, but like when you see Joel on TV saying like you have 6 hours remaining, that doesn't exist when you're filming the show. That's put in later when he's there to record for the critiques. So they're not bringing him in at the beginning, during, and staying there to the end. He's only there for the end of the show when he has to film for the critiques, and then he'll do those little audio segments later where they,
Splice
plug and
those
play
in.
those where they need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah. I mean, it's all a learning process, but I can't think of anything in particular. But I'm sure there are a lot of things that, you know,
Yeah, I don't want to pull the curtain back too much. I've been to two of the live finales of Ink Master now, so I've seen the live filmings of those. I had actually also been on set when they filmed Epic Ink, a couple of
oh yeah,
episodes of
sure.
Epic Ink. I was on set when they filmed those they did one at C2E2 in Chicago. I was there. It was like the pilot episode that they shot. So I saw that whole process behind the scenes and how that kind of all went down. And it really kind of, I mean, that told me a lot about how the TV world works. When you actually see the producers on set and you're actually behind the scenes, listening to them tell the clients and the artist how to do things on camera and what to say and how many different takes it takes till they get what they want. You know what I mean? It's like,
It's a lot.
it's crazy. It's like super crazy. And then when you're at the Ink Master Live finale and you're watching them read off of teleprompters, and then they're like, which by the way, Dave Navarro was amazing as a host of Ink Master. I mean, the guy, even on stage, I mean, he was just nailing shit. It wasn't a whole lot of retakes. I mean, he was just nailing stuff. So it was kind of cool to see that kind of stuff behind the scenes, but definitely from the tattoo competition standpoint, particularly with Epic Ink. Like I'll never forget. I was watching Chris Jones, I think it was. He did a RoboCop tattoo on this guy, and he's up there at the mirror, and they're revealing the tattoo for the first time to the client, and they didn't like the client's response. You know what I mean? They're like, "Oh, you weren't excited enough. We need to do that over. You're gonna act like this is the best tattoo you've ever seen. You got to have this crazy high level of excitement." And then they want a certain reaction from Chris, the artist. And so like, I think they shot that sucker like 20 times, man.
I believe it.
You know what I mean? And by the 20th time, you're like so sick of like replaying out this tattoo reveal. It's like,
Yeah, but you got to do it just as good as better than the first time.
it's
I
great.
mean, even like that show, it took 3 or 4 days to film one episode, and it's from, let's say, 16 people's perspective for 4 days in a row is all whittled down to 45 minutes. So
Yeah.
just so much, and for 14 hours a day, so it's just a lot of stuff that just, most of it you don't see, and yeah, you're seeing those takes over and over again. You're doing the walkout 6, 7 different times because somebody might have like looked at the camera, somebody might have not moved the right way. So it's just constantly rinse and repeat, hurry up and wait. Just, but yeah.
The business of tattooing is brought to you by Electrum Supply, the industry leader in high-quality tattoo supplies designed by artists for artists. Whether you need premium stencil products, top-tier cartridges, or game-changing aftercare, Electrum has you covered with innovative, artist-tested solutions you can trust. Want to elevate your work? Head over to electrumsupply.com and stock up on the best gear in the business. And because you're a listener of the business of tattooing, use code podcast10 at checkout for 10% off your next order. Stay sharp, stay stocked, and stay ahead with Electrum Supply. So in Ink Master, when you guys are like in the competition judging phase, every time you do a tattoo, you guys are all kind of like up there on the podiums. You guys are kind of all standing there. They're like, okay, Pony, let's come up and look at your tattoo next. And how long? I mean, is that a series of takes when they do that? I mean, is that like, how long are you guys really staying there during those judgings? Like how many times are they looking at that tattoo over and over again?
Sure. So between, I think one of the days of the week were critiques and a little bit of lounge time. So after you got critiqued and somebody got eliminated, you'd go right to the lounge and you'd discuss and talk about it. The lounge time was never very long, but you'd have to do 3, 4, 5 different walk-ins to go sit on the podium, and then you wait for a little bit, and then they start the judging. But the judging is all real time. It's like when somebody is talking about your tattoo, you don't go sit back down and come back up. You just go stand up for 45 minutes or so and get berated the entire time. So you're standing up there for a really long time. They might or probably won't even use what they said about your tattoo, but just one little line. But they're just searching for that 1 or 2 good lines that they could use. But yeah, you're just standing there for 40, 45 minutes, just, listening to them talk about your work, good, bad, and indifferent.
Oh, wow. So every artist tattoo is getting looked at for that amount of time. Then
That's
it gets
correct.
whittled down to TV. You're only seeing you up there for like 3 to 5 minutes. They condense
if
that whole
that.
critique down. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it could be one line. It could be like, Stephanie, you did a really good job on this tattoo, or, this is whatever, but yeah, good job. Goes and sits back down. So it might not even be a minute, but you're standing there for 40, 45 minutes. And then at the end of it, like they could be, it's weird how it happens. Cause like one of the tattoos that they absolutely hated, or from my point of view, like they absolutely hated. And I'm so at 45 minutes go by, you're like, all right, I've heard enough of this. And you go back and sit back down. And then on TV, they're like, this could have been a little bit different. And that's all they say. And you're like, oh my God, so just the way that it plays out, it's interesting.
Do you feel like the judging, though, overall is pretty fair? I mean, do you feel like the critiques are generally pretty fair? Like the judges mostly pretty much know what they're talking about and they pretty much hit the nail on the head? Or do you feel like there's a little bit of bias in there sometimes? I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, loaded question. But for the most part, I think the judges' critiques are fair. Do I think some of them don't know what they're talking about when it comes to certain subject matters? Absolutely. Like one judge in particular, I won't name any names. I did these traditional roses for my first tattoo there. And of course, the pictures look wonky when you see them online or see them on TV. Like the guy's leg was bent and they're also a little squished. So you're not seeing it how it's truly presented. But I used like Sailor Jerry red for the reds. Like I kept it as true as possible to me, an old American traditional tattoo. When you look at the old tattoo flash on the walls, if it's a rose, the banner usually says name or something along those lines. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm just going to stick to this old tattoo flash on the wall look. And then one of the judges was like, I don't know, it just reminds me of a style of tattoo you'd see on every shop in America on their walls. And I'm like,
That's
right.
the point.
That's the point. So whatever. So they weren't too big of a fan of that one, but I will say Nico understood the assignment. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's like a Bert Grimm kind of style, this, that, and the other. I'm like, right, exactly. So that's what I was going for. And, not all old traditional tattoos are pretty looking. They're just not, they were grungy. That's again, what I was going for. So it didn't look pretty on TV, but to me, I still stand on that hill, that I did what was asked of me. So it's, as the competition goes on,
there are definitely some like conspiracy theories, like, are they trying to get this guy along further for the end? Are they trying to do this? Are they trying to, make certain moves in order for it to work out the way that it worked out? But the critiques, for the most part, they are fair. And again, I think they have the ability to be honest and genuine because they're talking to you for 45 minutes. So they're going to point out every little thing. Um, but they might say one thing that helps move the competition in a certain way. Do I know that for a fact? Absolutely not. But the further you go along, you definitely start to feel that way.
Well, you like to critique tattoos a lot. Would you ever see yourself as a judge on Ink Master? Would that be something you'd be
Yeah,
interested
I
in
think
doing?
I think so. And if everything is authentic and genuine, then I think that would be fantastic. Because I do it all the time, I feel like I have a good, um, I guess, knowledge on what would help these guys out. Would it be great for TV? I don't know. Like DJ's funny. He's got all these like little one-liners and stuff like that sound great for TV. So I think that's why they bring him onto the show, because he's that's what they're looking for. Um, Whereas I might just play more of like the Nico Hurtado side of things, where I'm just trying to be educational, telling you what you can do different. So I think there's room for every judge and what they bring to the table. But I think that would be a blast. I think that'd be awesome to get paid more than I do now to do the same thing. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. What is the selection process like? Because I know a ton of artists who have applied to go on Ink Master, and do they tell you when you interview why they selected you, or do you know why you got picked for the show?
Kind of. So they were, like I said, they were trying to call me for the past few years to get me to do it. I'm like, not interested, not interested. And then so the last time they called me after I talked to Gian, they were like, listen, the producers really want to get you on this season. So like, let's try and do what we need to do to push you through. And I'm like, all right, that's fair. So when I get there, it was kind of like set in the air that I was the internet expert. Their words, not mine. So I think that's the character they saw in me, was like the internet expert, this OG, who thinks he knows it all, that teaches people online and stuff like that. I think, if they have to find a character for you, right? You can't just be some boring, no personality person who does exceptionally great work, because it is TV after all. You're not going to work well on TV if you're not putting your face out there talking, which I think a lot of people, unfortunately, like even in the lounge room, they were just very quiet. They didn't want to speak up for a lot of things or just be a part of what this is. And you're going on a TV show. You have to play into the TV aspect of it, right? I'm not saying to be fake or start arguments that don't mean anything, but speak up, talk a little bit. Don't be afraid. Just be uncomfortable. Just that's what it is. You're there for a reason.
You got to get your personality out there.
Right. So I think on the interviews, when people are interviewing for Ink Master, maybe they're just kind of dull and talking like this. And, I've been tattooing for 10 years. It's, talk with your hands, like be excited, let them know why you would be a good part of that series. And I think everybody who has any sort of interest should do it, because it was a great experience. And, I would do it again in a heartbeat. You can hate on it for sure, but it's not for you. That's all it is.
Right. Would you tell other artists that may be thinking about doing Ink Master to for sure do it? Is that something you would encourage anybody to do if they really thought they wanted to?
100%, absolutely. And just don't expect to win, because it's it is TV, so they're going to make it how they want it to make it, and you might not be as good as you think you are at being versatile. To me, Ink Master has always been about being as versatile as possible. So even though you're really, really good in one style, might not mean that you're good in traditional Japanese or whatever the case may be, or biomech. Just be as good as you possibly can. Get out there, become a household name. And even if you go home first, it's like, you still got to experience a little taste of what it is. And maybe it'll make you want to come back and do more. But yeah, I think it was great. Just like I said, the whole experience alone, it was just fantastic. And even if you went home early, I don't know, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, it was really interesting kind of going back a little bit into social media land. It was really interesting to hear you mention Reddit, because I don't ever hear I barely ever hear anybody talk about Reddit. To me, it seems like a very underutilized platform for tattoo artists, especially. In fact, I'm on Reddit all the time, but never on Reddit for tattooing. I'm always on Reddit for photography stuff. Like I'm on
That's funny.
all these photography groups in Reddit, because it's an excellent resource to learn photography tricks.
Very much so.
I never even thought about going, but you're right. There's so many subcategories in there that you can learn pretty much anything from. I never even thought to go on there to promote tattoo work, so that's,
That's what I was going to say. Even promoting yourself on it, there's two pages I can think of in particular. One's tattoos, and the other one is tattoo. One of them has a million, what do you call them, Redditors, a million
yeah,
subscribers. The other one has maybe like just under 500,000. But they're not all tattooers. Most of them are just the general public. So if you can post up a tattoo that you really like, let it get upvoted, let it be seen by these people. There are people that have booked with me just because of Reddit alone. They may have never heard of me before, but they're booking because they saw me post one sticker tattoo on Reddit.
yeah. Another social media platform that I think is horribly underutilized by tattoo artists, but I do see more tattoo artists gravitating to it now is LinkedIn. Have you used LinkedIn?
No, I haven't.
See, I think that's a really good platform for tattoo artists to get a hold of because, again, it's not like Facebook and Instagram where you're so limited by algorithms and using the right kind of. It's crazy because on Instagram and Facebook now, I feel like, well, maybe not so much Instagram, but definitely Facebook. Facebook, you almost have to create or stir up some kind of controversy or drama or piss people off to get any kind of engagement or people seeing your content. It's
Oh
like
yeah, sure thing.
that's how Facebook is. I hate Facebook for promoting business. It's like it just doesn't work. And Instagram, I don't even know what the solution to Instagram is. I've been trying to figure that out for the last fucking 7 years. It's like their
Sure.
algorithms change all the damn time. And it's like, as soon as you think you got it figured out, it changes. You got to
Yeah.
try to figure it all out again. But LinkedIn, I don't think has been really uh, LinkedIn's more of a business networking platform. There are a lot of tattoo artists over there. There's a lot more business people over there. So I think it's a good place just to make connections in whatever field you're in. I'm not so sure how well it would be to do to bring you new clients, but it would definitely help you network in the industry with other artists, and
Yeah, yeah. And to go back to your Facebook comment, I totally agree. But I just talked to Tom recently, who I work with, Tom, and anytime he travels to a convention, he will post up in the Facebook Marketplace in that area, and he always gets booked wherever he goes just because of Facebook Marketplace, which is crazy. That's something I never thought about either. But usually I'd see lawnmowers and stereos and whatnot, but if I saw a really cool tattoo, somewhere, I'd be like, oh, that's dope. I didn't know this guy was coming to this area or whatever, whatever. So it's similar to me in LinkedIn. I don't know how to use it for that, but I think it's just
yeah.
once you figure out how to use it, then it can really benefit you. It's all just little pieces of the internet, and everything is usable. You just have to figure it out, right?
Yeah, I never thought about the marketplace thing, but that's brilliant. That's
Right?
actually a
It's
really
crazy.
brilliant idea.
Yeah. Yeah, he
So
just
yeah,
posts
that's
up
cool.
designs on there and he gets booked. Like he'll post whatever he wants to do. If he's going to California, he'll post up a nice little design for that, post it up, and it gets sold almost every
Yeah,
time.
yeah, that's a good idea. That is a good idea. Um, what? Well, we had talked about before this. I sent you the outline, and I kind of hit on the supply company that you had for a while, Mayday.
Sure.
I know you don't have the supply company anymore, but I did want to touch on that a little bit and, ask you, because you had your own needles at one time, I think
Correct. Yep.
you had some other products that you manufactured. What was your inspiration in wanting to get into supplies back then, and why did that come to an end?
But I think the inspiration that started it was just having supplies at your disposal. Like I would run out of something, Gary might run out of something. So we're like, man, this has got to just be an easier way to like just buy a bunch at once so we don't have to worry about running out all the time. So then I'm like, what if I just bought all these at wholesale and then just had this little room that we're not using filled with the stuff, and then I was like, maybe we can sell to locally, we can use, at the time there was, I don't know if it was DoorDash or Uber or somebody had something where it was like, you can get your packages delivered locally within the hour. So I'm like, all right, sweet. So all these local tattooers can get their stuff delivered to their shop in an hour. If you get to the shop and realize you don't have Thermalpax paper, it's like you can get it delivered to you probably in 20 minutes. So I thought that idea was great. And then it would also allow me to I could have access to cheap to free needles if I needed them. Every size I could want is there. So I think it just started out of necessity, just not wanting to wait for days for my stuff. And then also helping all these other people out with the things that they need. I was selling stuff for as cheap as I possibly could. Again, just because I'm not, most of the things I do in life aren't out to like get rich quick. It's just about to help out everybody who I surround myself with. Um, but yeah, I found out that I could get my own needles made. So I like went through that whole process, talking to the manufacturer, figuring out what exactly needles I wanted out of it. And they were great, especially like the 3-round liners. They were fantastic. Like everybody that I talked to were like, yeah, those needles are fire. COVID took a big hit on everything. It's when that happened. And then, a lot of our needles come from China. So it's like dealing with overseas shipping with the customs and stuff like that. Like I would get thousands of dollars in needles that would just get stopped by customs and it wouldn't allow them over here. So and so then I had to learn about licensing because there's some company in Germany that didn't like that I was selling cartridge needles. If you know, you know. So it was just dealing with a lot of stuff. And then the other needle supplier that I used at the time, Bishop, was dealing with similar issues. So I couldn't get my own needles in. I couldn't get Bishop needles in. I had somebody that was working for me that was sending out wrong sizes of things, whether it be shirts or needles. So I had to ship out the right sizes. So I was just constantly losing product and not getting anything in return. So it just became a bit more of a headache than it was worth, And I thought about trying it again, but it's just not where my head's at,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you do it. It takes a team to make it work, and it can be a big headache.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely not easy. I definitely experience all those same headaches on a pretty much daily basis, one way or another.
Yeah.
I think everybody thinks, well, I mean, it's apparent, there's so much oversaturation in our industry, whether it be not so much supply companies. I don't think that's, and I think this current economy is going to whittle a lot of them out of the way. I just don't think they're going to be able to maintain with the slowdown in business and the increase in tariffs and trying to bring things over from China. It's just getting really expensive to be a brand, even not even a supplier, just to have a brand in the space is very expensive. And it's hard because of the oversaturation. I mean, Jesus Christ, there's 200 aftercare products out there. I mean, how do you choose which
Right.
one you want to use?
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy.
New needles popping up every day.
It's crazy. I just saw a new needle pop up today and it's like all over my social media. I'm like, oh, here's another needle. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Which one is it? Because I saw one pop up yesterday as well.
Uh, Steel Hand or something.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that's the one I saw. It was like Metal Fingers, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah, I was like, where are these coming from? This is
Yeah,
crazy.
it's just so, and not only that, bro, it's like I think one of the most discouraging things in the world in general is when you are truly a creative person, when you truly have the ability to innovate and create things, and you can get like patents for things because you've created something and you've invented something, to have that work just blatantly ripped off by a Chinese company and it happens. I mean, I see it happen to my friends, you know what I mean? Like people that I've respected in this industry for years, and I know the work that they put into making their products, the hours and years of time that they've spent perfecting a product. And then they take it over and they have it manufactured in China because it's cheap to manufacture there. And then 2 months later, China comes out with a bootleg of that same product. And then they're selling it direct to consumers here for a third of the price that the American manufacturer is selling it for. I just think it's a really fucked up thing, and it's really discouraging and defeating. To me, that's been one of the hardest parts of being and doing what I do. It's like it's just people shit on your work. It's similar to having a tattoo, and somebody takes your tattoo and tattoos it on somebody else and calls it their own. It's fucked up.
Sure thing. Yeah, yeah.
It's
I mean, so, yeah, I guess like what, two sides, right? Because on one side, it's speaking of the tattoos more so, there is a bit of flattery there. Like you liked somebody's work enough to do that stuff. And when it comes to the Chinese materials, for the most part, they're not usually as good as the American made stuff, but it is cheaper. So again, like the oversaturation of tattooers, a lot of people are going to take the cheaper one because it is cheaper. But it's hard to swallow that, but it's like you got to take pride in what you make and knowing what it is, and knowing that it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's just crazy to try to maintain a positive headspace out of that all the time. It's just it's a
Sure.
really difficult thing. Even when it doesn't affect me, like I said, it could be you. Like I could know that you worked for years developing a product. even for example, like your YouTube channel, you know, if I'm familiar and intimate with your work as an artist, and I love your work as an artist, if I turned the corner and I saw somebody else basically copying you, I would get offended by that. Like it has no direct bearing to me, like it doesn't impact me, but it has an effect on you and you're my friend, and that
Right.
pisses me off. You know what I mean? So like that's the hard part of it for me. As far especially being an artist, you know, I think true artists inherently have respect and admiration for other artists, period. Like
100%.
you just have a level of respect that just comes with being an artist. You understand that. And it's really easy to identify people that aren't genuinely built from that mold. You know what I mean? Like and that's what makes it difficult for me to try to navigate, because I don't want to be in a space where I have to contend with people that don't respect the space I'm in.
Sure thing.
You know, that's difficult. And I think our industry is plagued by a lot of that. But it's not just our industry, it's everywhere. It's all over the place.
Yeah, no, it's not going anywhere, unfortunately. It's, you know,
No, and
that's,
I think AI will make things like that even worse because it makes copying easier.
oh, sure.
It takes the effort out of things, you know?
Yeah. But again, I'm always one to like play devil's advocate and look at the both sides of the coin. Now at this point too, you may think I don't know the ins and outs of AI, but now instead of this person copying this tattooer's work, maybe he can change it up a bit or something like that with the help of AI, and now it's not a direct copy, although it's still more of like a, I hate to use the word lazy route. It's still not a direct copy, but you have to trust that they would do that. People are always going to copy and rip shit off. I mean, that's unfortunately not going anywhere. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. Hey, AI is a weird one. I just
Well,
wait to see where it
I
goes.
think as an artist, I mean, you're always inspired by something else, right? Generally.
Sure
I
thing.
mean, you see a picture of something and you're like, "Oh, that just gave me an idea." And then but you don't typically take that verbatim and go copy it. You usually take some element from that and you apply it to something else and you make something new out of whatever it was
Yeah,
that
yeah,
inspired you on that original thing that you saw.
yeah.
But it's great. I don't know how I feel about AI and tattooing. I talk about it a lot on the podcast. I'll ask you too, you know, are you using AI in tattooing, which you can answer. But I think I'm a devil's advocate when it comes to it too, because I use the shit out of AI in my business life. Like I'm trying to
Yeah.
simplify all of my tasks in my business life with AI, and I'm grateful for it because it's freed up a ton of my time. And even if you look
Absolutely.
at back at the evolution of tattooing, you know, 20 years ago we drew everything by hand, you know, even colored everything by hand to try to get the color theory and everything down before you actually applied it to skin. You know, I can remember those days.
Yeah.
Then comes the iPad and Procreate, and it just really simplified that process and took your full day drawing down to maybe a couple hours drawing, you know, so you saved a shit ton of time in that evolutionary process. Now you have AI where you can go, oh, give me a bird on a branch and make a forest in the background, and the forest is slightly out of focus, and I want a sunset in the background, and I'm going to place it on the upper forearm and place the bird facing this way, and then you just get some crazy design that just generates in 20 seconds. And
It's
then you can
crazy.
take it into your tattoo stencil app, turn it into a stencil, apply. I mean, you can have that whole
Yeah.
process done within an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. If an hour, right?
You
It's
know?
insane.
And you can be tattooing it. You have a
Yep.
reference photo, everything. If you want to be completely lazy and don't want to change anything in the design, boom, boom, A to B, like you said, less than an hour. I mean, is it wrong? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't know either. That's a tricky spot. I mean, there's always going to be the creatives that, like to draw everything from hand, color everything from hand. But even if you were having trouble finding a good color palette for your work, sketch something out, shaded in black and white, uploaded to the AI, be like, what color palette would look best for this? Or maybe make 5 different color palettes for me. And that would just help you choose it to, in the end, give a better result to your client. Because when it comes to tattooing, I think it's all about the end result. No matter how you get there, it's what they end up with, what they live with. So that might hurt your ego as an artist who likes to design everything by hand and do that. But at the end of the day, it's what the client goes home with. So I always think that's probably probably one of the most important things, when tattooing somebody is the result that they go home with, that they have to live with. Um,
So I feel like there's a lot of gray area in how you achieve that. If you're not blatantly ripping somebody off, obviously that's the most wrong thing you can do. But if you have the assistance of things to help you out, iPads, we're not wasting paper. We're not like, what was it the other day? I did a disco ball. And if I had to hand trace that disco ball, chances are my lines aren't going to be perfect. But if I had an app to help me do that, or my iPad to help me make a computer perfect stencil, then why wouldn't I want to use that? So
Yeah.
it's,
What inspired you to make the tattoo stencil app?
so my buddy Garrett, who when I first worked with him around in 2014, he was using a Photoshop filter called Photocopy. And I was like, well, I didn't know that was a thing, but there's got to be something on iPad because most tattooers don't carry their laptops around with them everywhere. And going to conventions, I'm like, there's got to be something on the iPad. And sure enough, I'm looking for something and couldn't find it. So I'm like, all right, so that sparked the idea of trying to find a developer to help me develop an app that was just as simple as that one filter. That's all I needed. I didn't need any extras, no fancy bells and whistles, just that. Um, and so I went through maybe 2 or 3 developers. I finally found somebody that I could work with that wasn't trying to squeeze me out of money. Cause like the first one was just like, oh, you want this little thing changed? It's going to be another $1,000. Oh, I didn't get it right. You want it changed? That's going to be another $1,000. So he was squeezing me as much as he could. And then I found somebody who wouldn't accept payment until he got it right. So I was like, awesome. And then unfortunately, I haven't talked to him in a long time because there are some updates that I would like to make for this app, but need to find a new developer because I don't know coding myself. But again, maybe AI could help me out with that. But I just wanted it to be simple. I wanted it to be affordable. So that's why it was $1. I know there's a lot of apps out there that are subscription based, and I don't necessarily agree with subscription based because at the end of the day, it feels like you're taking advantage of your fellow tattooer. And that's not something I wanted to do. That's why it was $1. I just needed it to pay for itself and I'd be good.
How's the app been performing? Because how long have you had it out there now? Been
Since,
quite a few years.
yeah, since either 2014, maybe 2015, something like that.
And do you know how many users you have on the app now?
The last I checked, which has been a long time ago, it's probably been a year since the last time I checked, but it was about on average 40,000 users a week.
Oh,
But I
that's
can
good.
imagine it's probably gone up since then.
That's good. Yeah, it's interesting because I've seen a few stencil apps out there. There is a new one out there. I think I told you about it. I don't know if you checked it out or not, but
Yeah.
the new one that's out there is pretty good, and I like the guys because they're doing a lot of cool things with it too outside of just tattoo stencils. Like they're really just keyed in on it and constantly updating it. And I think they actually know some programming, so they're able to do that a little bit easier.
Right.
But
And
they're
they're not
doing some
charging a
stuff
monthly
now.
subscription.
Well, yeah, they're really keyed in on regulatory stuff and like safety and compliance, as an artist. They're like, hey, I want to make sure the products I'm using as an artist, I want to qualify the products I'm using. So I'm like, they hit me up because of my tattoo inks, because they were using my tattoo inks, and that's how I got kind of hip to them.
Yeah.
And then they let me beta test the tattoo stencil app, and they were running me through some of the beta stuff that they were doing with the inks in particular. So they basically made a whole Procreate palette for my ink palette for all of my inks. They put that in the app. So now you can go in there and you can upload a tattoo design, and it will basically go in there. And if I think they've even done it with Eternal and maybe a couple of the other ink brands by now. But now you can go in there and you can say, I'm using Eternal ink and I'm using some Electrum ink. What colors can I use? Help me line out my color palette for the tattoo. Here's the design, and it will tell you. But not only that, it goes a step further and it says, here's all the SDS sheets for these colors. It gives you all the information on the color. It's pretty crazy. And they're doing some other cool stuff too. But your app, I remember your app being the first one that really, because there were some other ones out there and they were kind of like really not great, like I don't know what filters they were using where you would take a reference picture and basically try to turn it into a line drawing or whatever.
Sure. Right.
But I think yours was the first one that actually had like the sliders where you could actually adjust some of the sensitivity of those filters and kind of fine tune that a little bit more to your liking.
Yeah. And there was one I remember. It was called like Cut Copy or something along those lines, but it wasn't like made for tattooing, so they didn't have that in mind when it was made. Because I mean, as far as I know, mine was the first one out there for a good couple of years, and I know it needs some updates. But yeah, the sliders worked out all right, to get rid of some of the detail or the noise. And personally, when I use it, I like all the noise. The noisier the better. It just makes it more crisp for me. I can read through those blobs like the Matrix code, so it works for me. It might not be for everybody, but it works for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when I tattoo, I like to have a super clean stencil. I don't like all that noise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to transfer that from the reference photo into the tattoo. But I've watched a lot of people tattoo, especially realism I'm not a realism guy. I don't ever want to try to venture into that world. I always have a really super profound respect for black and gray realism artists because, in my opinion, I think it's probably the most difficult style of tattoo to pull off flawlessly. Um, but I've always been like, man, it'd be super cool if I could pull off some black and gray realism. So generally, when I'm walking around conventions, I really like to stop and watch black and gray guys just kind of throw down and see how they're doing things because the guys that really get it good are just like, it's incredible to watch them work, and just how they
Yeah.
layer everything and
The
it's
David
just,
Vegas.
yeah, there's such a huge difference between color realism and black and gray realism in the actual application of the tattoo. So
Oh, very much so. Very much.
yeah, it's just it's really interesting to watch. So like I think in black and gray realism, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably different for every artist. You're a black and gray realism guy, and you say that you like all that noise in there. Do you think it would be different in color realism? Do you like all that noise regardless of the style of tattoo, or do you think it lends better to a particular style versus a different style as far
Ooh,
as the stencil goes?
yeah, I think so. Even when I do the color stuff, I still like it because it's as long as it's like realism, right? So like if I'm doing a color sticker, like a realistic sticker, I like the noise because they're all little landmarks of where things should be. So it's again, I don't see every little mark when I'm doing it. I'm just noticing like, all right, this dot from this dot is 1 centimeter away. So I just kind of fill in the blanks. I don't know if that affects things such as like when you're laying down color, will it make some things look brighter or darker? I don't really know. I like to try to wipe away as much as I can when I finish up. Um, Color to me is still more difficult. Like color realism to me, I feel like I don't understand it because I see too many colors. So when I'm trying to tackle it, I'm like, my mind is all over the place. I'm sweating. Whereas black and white is like, all right, this is this tone, period. This is this tone. So it's a little bit easier. But I think as far as the stencil goes, it feels all the same to me, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was an art student in school, when we first started learning how to draw portraits, they always taught you how to do it on graph paper,
Yep, yep, yep.
and then you just work in one square at a time and you move to the next square and you just draw what you see in that square.
Correct. Yep.
And it's really interesting because if you ever watch Steve Butcher and you ever see like the stencils Steve Butcher makes and they're just like these crazy, just like you look at these stencils and you're like, Jesus Christ, dude, how do you even make sense of that?
Right.
But then if I sat in one of his seminars one time and I listened to him explain he goes, dude, I just tattoo these little shapes. I just focus on this one little shape and then I go to the next little shape and I go to the next little shape. And at the end, you have this crazy masterpiece. And I'm just like, I completely understand what you're saying because I'm just like, dude, how can you just focus on that one little shape? Like I'm seeing this whole damn thing. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
how does that even come out, bro? Like,
Yeah, I don't know, dude. That's why tattooing is so cool, though. I mean, because like somebody like Daria Pyrojenko or Melik Tayskin tattooer, when they do their color tattoos, there's our very like old school hand traced minimal lines, and like Daria doesn't even follow her stencil half the time. She's like, this just belongs here, so she's not going the little shape route. She's just putting shit everywhere, and in the end, it's so saturated, it's so good, and I'm like, how do you do that? I don't get it. So it's just different, like, depending on how you approach your work, you're going to look at somebody else's and wonder how they do it when they're probably wondering the same thing about you.
yeah, yeah. So, what's the rest of the year look like for you in regards to conventions? How many more shows do you have this year?
So I know I have the Milwaukee convention this weekend. I don't know if I have anything else. I got a couple guest spots coming up. I've got one in New York, maybe one in LA, um, possibly Dallas. I'm not sure. But then the beginning of the year starts off with the Ghost Tattoo Convention from the
Where's
company
that one
Ghost
at?
in Savannah, Georgia. So I'm looking forward to that one because I get to see my buddy Jarrell, of course, who lives down in Georgia, and it just I've never been to Anime Inc., but those kind of shows look appealing to me. Just a lot of nerds getting nerdy stuff. Like I've always liked that kind of almost Comic Con esque vibe.
Yeah. Did you ever tattoo at the Comic Cons?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I did those for a handful of years and they were great.
Were you doing that stuff with Chris 51 and those guys back in the day?
No, so that was, if I remember correctly, that was Geekster Inc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
If I'm not wrong. So
yeah.
there were two companies. There were Geekster Inc. that was Chris 51, and then there was Ink Fusion Empire that was ran by Mark Draven.
Right.
So they each had their own shows that they had license to tattoo at. I just happened to be part of the Ink Fusion one, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Ink Fusion ended up taking over the contracts of Geekster Inc. So now it's just under one company, and I think there's another smaller company out there now doing things. But for the most part, it's all the Ink Fusion Empire.
Yeah, it was always Ink Fusion originally, and that's who I originally had hooked up with Mark Draven. I was at an Ink Fusion show at C2E2 when they were filming Epic Ink, and it was shortly after that, because Chris 51 actually was part of Ink Fusion and Mark Draven's group, and then he decided to branch out and start Geekster Inc. on his own, and then that was a whole thing or whatever. Um, but yeah, I missed doing those shows, man. Those were fun shows because it was like 30 artists to 25,000 people coming through the door over the
Right.
weekend.
Yep. Yeah, same. It's a very minimal artist. I mean, even at most, like I would do a Star Wars show and there might be 30 artists, but at like 90s Con in Hartford Convention, there's 6 tattooers. And it might not be the biggest convention, but it's just 6 tattooers. So if you wanted something 90s to remember the weekend by, whatever it was, it's like you have 6 artists to pick from, and it was, I don't know. Those shows are great though. I loved all the themes to them. Although I'm not like a big comic guy, they were still just nerdy people getting nerdy tattoos, zero egos, no
Yeah.
tattoo conventions, no shit talking about who won first place or whatever. It was just, you were there for the love of what it was.
Yeah, it was just cool because you get to meet celebrities, you get to go home with a bunch of toys, it's just like
Right. Oh,
you t-
it's fantastic.
yeah, dude, I miss those shows. We need to have more shows like that. I really wish I need to link back up with Draven and just kind of maybe hit up a couple more of those shows because he's still out there doing Ink Fusion. I mean, that
Oh
stuff
yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
still a thing. He's got contracts with Disney and I
Yeah.
mean that dude's connected, man.
Very much so. So, or even like have our own conventions. You know what I mean? Like we can start our own comic convention and just have it like tattoo/Comic Con, and it can be small to start off with and grow from there. I don't know. I think that'd be fun though.
Yeah, yeah, I miss those shows. I just miss the vibe, that nerdy vibe, and just hanging out with
Yeah.
nerds and stuff. It's just
If you
fun,
put it put it up someplace between my and my or Chicago and where you're at, and just we're in Central America, so it's like it's easy for people to get to.
Well, see, I've always wanted to do an Electrum show.
Yep.
I'm right here and I'm around South Bend, Notre Dame. It's like, who the fuck's gonna travel here for a tattoo convention? Like, I can't bring artists from all over the United States to freaking South Bend, Indiana. You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna freaking work.
Yeah, yeah, I know,
There's
I
no
get it.
money
Maybe
here.
it's right. Well, yeah, and it's if you could, but if you, it's what is it? The field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. It's just you have to have something that people want to go to. Because I've been to some conventions in super small towns, but it was such a good time and good show. But yeah, maybe coming to the outskirts of Chicago or somewhere around there, and I don't know. I think that'd be great though. That'd be fun.
Yeah, but I'm like, dude, I've thought about doing a convention for so many years now, but it's like, how do you do something like I gotta be way outside the box? Like, I don't want to just cookie cutter the same old shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I don't want a sideshow. I don't want midget wrestling. I don't want
Right.
burlesque. I mean, I really want to blow it out of the wall. We were doing the one in Fort Wayne for a while, Devil's Hollow. Did you ever go to that show?
It sounds familiar. Maybe
Fort
I
Wayne,
did. I don't
Indiana,
remember.
Devil's Hollow.
Yeah,
Could have been a
I don't
super, I
recall.
mean, it could have been super cool, man. Like, I got involved with those guys for a while. I never had any ownership in the show. I was just always like a title sponsor. So they would kind of listen to my feedback every once in a while. I'd be like, guys, what if we did this? But then you'd always get pushback about like, so for example, like Fort Wayne is a super, they always did the show at Halloween time. It's called Devil's Hollow. And Fort Wayne has this whole, folk tale around Devil's Hollow. I mean, it's why the show was called that. You can go Google it. There's a whole story around it, this folklore around this whole story, but they never really played on it. They never really did anything with it. And the reason why is because one of the convention owners was like super religious and he never really wanted to bend the rules or step outside
Oh,
the box in regards to religious views. He's like, I don't know about, no, I don't feel good about all that. But I'm like,
damn.
dude, you live in a town that's like super amped up at Halloween time. I'm like, you got 7 haunted houses in the town, dude. I was like,
Yeah.
there's a whole side of this convention center it's not even being used right across the hall. I'm like, why don't you get one of the haunted houses to come in here and set up a haunted house? Bring tarot card readers in here, like make it a whole Halloween costume contest. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, you're missing out on a lot by
just
not
do a
doing it.
whole thing, man, that's really going to attract people in because you're in this town that lives and breathes Halloween. They never just wanted to do anything like that. And I was like, and I just think that show could have been so much better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
My
I'm
friend
always
Andy
thinking
puts on
like,
one.
what's that?
Oh, I was going to say my friend Andy put on her first annual one here in Chicago, and hers felt like a Hell City. It was very small. It was hand-selected artists, but I think she did it right. It, it was just everybody there was really good. She gave away like CeeLo dice to every artist attending, and she had all these food trucks out there. It didn't make it too big, but it was nice. I think she did it well. She had local menus made up for the area, like that would tell you where all the restaurants are and what they served. Like she went out of her way to make it a really good show. Um, so yeah, I think it's doable.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's why guys like Derb have been successful for so long. You know what I mean? Hell City's always been my favorite show too. You said it in the beginning, like that's your
Yeah,
favorite show. Always been my favorite show too, just because I remember when I was just a young tattoo artist and I would see videos of Hell City and I would be like, oh my God, that's fucking amazing.
all right,
And
that's where I
then
got to get to.
and then you get there and you're like, oh, I can never miss a show here. I got to be here every
Yep,
year. Like this has
yep,
to be a
yep.
thing. I don't feel that way about any other show. Any other show, I'm just like, if I'm there, I'm there. If maybe I'm not going to go this year, I don't know. Hell City's
Yeah,
at one
I
though.
agree.
Like I got to be there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Same.
Evergreen's the same way, like that's why Evergreen Josh Carlton's show was so good because I mean they went out of their way to make it such a phenomenal, different experience. Like it's just nothing else like it.
Yep.
So I think you're right. I had thought like I was like, man, because I skateboarded a lot when I was a kid and I'm still in love with skateboarding. And I'm just like, man, how cool would it be to set up a big ass half pipe in the middle of the convention center and just have tattoos all
Right.
around there, have a BMX and skateboard competition going off in the middle of the show the whole time. I think about crazy shit like that, but I don't know. I
That's
still want to,
funny.
I still want to do a show before the end of it all. I want to get a damn show done.
Yeah, you have to, man. I feel like that's just it. I mean, I don't know. It feels like you need one, like you should have had one for years.
Well, but again, I haven't done it because I don't want to just do what everybody else is doing. And if I can't think of something that's super unique, that's going to really, because I'm like you, man, I want to really cater to the artist and I don't want an artist to come to that show and leave and say, this was a fucked up show. Fuck this.
Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
want everyone that comes there saying, this is like Hell City. Yeah. I want that same feeling you get when you go to Hell City. They're like, this is a fucking show. Like and I don't want to do it every year. I want it to be like every 3 years. You know what I mean? I want it
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
like
yeah. Something
people
to look
miss it
forward
when
to.
it's not there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then when it comes back around, they're like, oh shit, did you hear it's coming back around? We got to get in there. I want it to be a
Yeah,
thing like that.
that'd be
So
sweet.
until I can pull something off like that, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
It's not a
It sounds
half-ass kind of an effort.
yeah, yeah. It sounds like a lot of work too.
Well, I mean, everything that we do is a lot of work. I mean,
Yeah,
everything you
you're
do
not
is a
wrong.
lot of
You're not
work.
wrong.
So what's next for you, man? I mean, what other ideas that you got in the pipeline? If there's anything you can talk about, I mean, I know your brain's always working on new stuff.
Yeah, right. So I guess as of like right now, I'm working on filming a series with comedians where I give a crash course to comedians on how to tattoo. So they'll tattoo fake skin and then a real human. So I've got a really exciting one coming up that I did with this comedian named John Goblikon. He's also the singer of this band called Necro Goblikon. But he is a riot. If you've never heard of him, I highly suggest you check him out. His Instagram is the real John Goblikon. He has a podcast called Right Now where he interviews other comedians. So and then the first one I filmed was with Madison Sinclair, which was maybe 3 weeks ago. I just put it out last week, I think. But yeah, I think it's fun. It's a new take on just like I'm teaching, not really teaching somebody how to tattoo, but it's I love the comedy world. I'm obsessed with the comedy world. So it's just kind of those worlds colliding. They get to do something that they've never done before, and I get to have a good time by talking to a comedian for the entire time. I'm not trying to like one up them or be super funny. I'm letting them do, funny shit, and I'm just there to kind of teach them along the way. And I think it's a really interesting collision of worlds. So I'm trying to do more of that. Uh, I just need to make more videos now that
when this Goblin one comes out, I'll have 2 videos to send to other comedians, and hopefully I can get more on board. And yeah, I've got some names in mind that I'd like to get on the show, but I need something tangible to send to them and show
Sure.
them. But
That's super
yes,
cool.
that's where
I
it's at
don't,
right now.
yeah, I don't know how you come up with all these ideas all the time. It just seems like you're always just generating new stuff. And
Yeah, it is hard. It's just one idea will come to me, and I'm like, oh, maybe we can expand on that, and I'll think about it more and more. Like, yeah, that does sound like a good idea. And then again, going back to our earlier conversation, it's just like a lot of the audience isn't there for that, but I have to accept that. So even if I put an episode out with a comedian, it's probably not going to do well. But to me, it was such a good time, and I know the audience will eventually show up for that. So if I can have all these different things, where it's just the audience itself is very diverse, then I think that's pretty rad.
yeah, what's next in your tattoo career? Like, how often are you tattooing now? Every day still? 5 days a week? What's your tattoo
Five,
like?
6 days a week. Yeah. And it's usually one day for recording, and then sometimes one day for like house stuff, catching up around the house.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's usually 5 to 6 days a week tattooing, and then one day
And
for
then
recording.
do you have any other hobbies outside of the tattoo world? I mean, like, are you going to the gym? Are you like staying
I don't go
physically
on no
active?
gym, but
No, I mean,
uh,
like,
yeah,
what's a day in your life typically look like? You're just getting up and going straight to work every day, and that's it.
yeah, getting up, feeding the dogs, going to work, and then I usually arrive at work around 10-ish. Finish up anywhere from, if it's an early day, maybe 6 p.m. If it's a later day, maybe 8, 9, 10 p.m. And then going home, eating some dinner, going to bed, wake up, rinse, repeat. But if it's an earlier day, or maybe even a day off, like me and Tom and Raph or Garrett might go play some pool or something like that. I really like pool. Play some video games here and then, but yeah, it's usually just the same every day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's cool, man. If people want to, I mean, I know your books are pretty full and you're a busy guy. Uh, what's the process for a person who wants to get tattooed by you? How does that happen?
Sure. It's super easy. It's just ponylawson.com. There's a quick little form to fill out on there that says it will have all my dates that where I'm traveling to. So if I have a convention booked in California or a guest spot, that will be one of the locations where they can book. And then, so I will, if it's a Chicago-based appointment, those will get booked if it's something I'm into. And if it's like a California-based appointment, I have to be more selective because it's, it would only be for like 3 or 4 spots at most. But then they'll be put on the waiting list, or they'll get booked right away. But I usually have like a California waiting list, a New York waiting list. So that way, when I know I'm going back to New York or wherever, I can go through there and be like, all right, let's hit up these people and, book them. So right now on the website, there's probably like the Georgia, the Milwaukee. So you don't have to travel to Chicago to get work. I just try to make it as easy on the person getting a tattoo as possible. They'll fill out the form, and if I accept it, then they'll send over, reference images, pictures of their body and stuff like that, and then kind of just whittle it down from there.
How I'm assuming that you have probably a pretty large percentage of return clients.
hmm
How does that work out? If I'm a client that's generally getting tattooed by you a lot, do they go through the same process, or do you have do they have direct access and they say, hey, Pony, I want to work on this arm some more?
Well, so they can. I mean, generally, I'll give my clients my number just so they can send me some healed photos along the way, or if they have any questions or concerns, problems, whatever arise, they can just hit me up directly. But if they want a new tattoo, it's I know it sounds so dumb, but it's always back to the email form, just because that's where I keep everything. Like, come the day of the appointment, I don't want to go searching in text threads, or if I didn't save your number, it's like everything is where it is. It's easy to go back to something. If I need to reschedule, it's right there. My assistant can hit them up and let them know we need to reschedule. Chances are that doesn't happen, but everything just goes back to that same form. It's easier to keep track of everything that way.
Yeah, it makes sense. When's the last time you were tattooed?
Oh, not that long ago. What did I get recently? I've been trying to get more and more lately. I got a couple Band-Aids from this girl, Shanna. Fuck, she's gonna kill me. I forgot her last name. Damn it.
Do you get those done at a convention?
Yeah, that was done at a convention. I got like a Powerline Band-Aid and a Max Band-Aid. Why can't I remember her last name? Anyway, I'll remind you later. We can throw it in. I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah, fuck, I can't even remember her Instagram name. Why is this happening to me?
it doesn't matter.
Anyway,
Just text me later. I'll put it in.
We won't be saved. It's Instagram. We won't be saved. But anyway, I got those from her. I got the Pink Panther from my buddy Trevor, who I was on the show with.
Yeah, yeah.
I know I got more lately. People are gonna hate me. I've been working on my back for a while.
Who's doing your back?
My buddy Landon out in Colorado. His tattoos by Landon.
Okay.
Which I know we need to get back out there. I need to get back out there. It's probably been, I don't think I've been tattooed by him since I got home from Ink Master, because Ink Master drained a bunch of my money because I didn't win. And you don't get paid but peanuts out there. So it took me a minute to kind of get back financially. So I just do need to make my way back there, and so he can finish the project. I know he wants to get it finished just as much as I want it finished.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just like to collect little small things here and there, from people who I like their work. And usually it's not so much 6-hour, 7-hour tattoos anymore. Usually they're like an hour, 2 hours, something like that. But I'm running out of room as well.
Yeah, yeah. Who are your favorite artists today?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I know there's so many good ones out there.
It's insane. I can't name somebody in specific. They're generally the tattooers that are doing like nice line weight tattoos, nice color saturation. I find that I like almost like Nintendo-esque characters that are fully saturated in color more than I do like a realistic black and gray person. Because to me, like black and gray realism is just a little on the boring side. It's nice when I see something that's done really well, like a David Vega. So there is something that I appreciate in that. But like when I see somebody who does like a full sleeve of just super bright Nintendo characters that have the right line weights that tells a story, I think that's really rad. And not just like an outer panel, but like a full sleeve that has good flow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are really cool. Not the biggest fan of like what I call 3-day convention tattoos, where it's just like the whole side of a leg.
Sure.
They can be done well, but I much prefer to look at a sleeve or leg where I have to move your arm around to see everything that's going on.
Do you like the sticker tattoos or like the patch tattoos?
Yeah, yeah, both of them I like a lot. I do like the stickers a little bit more than the patch ones, I think, just because I don't know, you can turn anything into a sticker. I mean, it goes so far as to I went and bought a sticker maker. So now if somebody comes to me with a design, I can kind of clean it up how I need to, but I can print it out on actual sticker paper with the white border, take that sticker, put it on the person's skin, wrinkle it up how I need to, add a nice bright light so I get the shadows where I want it, then take a picture, put it back in Procreate, make the stencil, and then print it off and go from there. So it's when I put the stencil on, that's exactly how the sticker laid on your skin with those exact shadows. So I try to get it as realistic looking as possible.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really like the hologram spin on the stickers tattoos too when they put the hologram.
Oh yeah, like Flip Shades does that a lot.
Yeah, he got really good at those.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he's got his own little signature orange flip and stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gotten really good at the sticker tattoos.
Yeah. I want to know his
Speaking of
process
Flip, I
too.
got to get back out and have him finish. He's working on my knee.
Oh, nice.
He did Method Man on this side of my knee a long time ago. We're supposed to put Red Man over here and then the Wu-Tang kneecap.
Yeah, ouch.
Yeah, so but dude, I'm 51. I'm gonna be 51 in December, and dude,
Crazy.
it's true what they say. The older you get, the more tattoos suck. I
believe
fucking
it.
hate getting tattooed now. I don't even
Yeah,
want to
same.
get tattooed anymore. It's just like I'm done.
Same. 8 hours used to be nothing.
Dude, it's funny because I got my back done and I sat for 3 days straight on that one. It's 32 hours. I did 10, 10, 12, right? 10-hour day, 10-hour day, 12-hour day, just lower, middle, upper. And then
That's crazy.
because dude, I that's the way I am though, dude. I'm like, I'm not coming back and doing this shit. I put my back off for so long because I was just terrified of how bad it was gonna hurt.
Sure.
When I finally jumped and I said, fuck it, we're doing it. We're fucking doing it. Like I want to get it done. Let's just get it done. 3 days, if that's what it takes, let's do it, But dude, by the end of that, I was fucking toast, man. I was just done.
I bet. Would you do it again?
I would say no, but it's crazy. That's just how I've always been. Like I did my chest in one setting. I sat for 13 hours straight and got my chest done. One setting. But that wasn't
Crazy.
shit. I just recently started reworking my chest, 10 years after I got it done originally. And we got through like 5 hours and I was tapped out. I was like, fuck this, I'm done.
Sure. Right.
It's a completely different story,
Yeah.
So now half my chest is finished and The other half's still not done. My artist is always like, when are you going to come back in and get this damn chest done? I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to, man. I might just go on my grave like this, dude. I'm really
Story of my life. Yep.
I'm over it. I'm just over it. But yeah, man, who do you want to get tattooed by next? Do you have somebody in mind?
Ooh, I don't know. I really like the way Rocket tattoos and Andrei Vasilyev.
I just
Both of
learned
those
about
guys.
Rocket a couple weeks ago.
Did you? Yeah, I really like his stuff a lot.
Yeah,
It's
it's
also a super
pretty
rad
crazy.
guy. I got to work with him at the competition series, and him and Andre both have like kind of similar styles. A lot of like lady faces with like little framework,
Mm-hmm.
but the color saturation is really good. But I do like the smaller, like I said, like a super colorful Kirby wearing a chef's hat or something like that, just something that could be knocked out in 3 hours. I really like that stuff. And since I don't have like any panels left to tattoo, it's all just like little spots here and there.
Fillers.
Probably somebody who does that kind of stuff. I'd still like to get tattooed by Jarrell, who I was on Ink Master with. I think we could find a spot for him somewhere. But yeah, I like getting tattooed by people. Obviously, I like their work a lot, but just people who I think are just super dope people.
Yeah, I noticed you don't have any tattoos on your face.
No, just this little guy here, but it's barely anything, and that was probably like 10 years ago.
You ever gonna get any of that? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Because see, I don't have
I
them
don't
either.
know. Yeah, I don't know. I
It's-
mean, the thoughts definitely crossed my mind for several years, or like for the longest time, I even wanted something on my head, like a little Travis Barker style. But I don't know. I like having the option to, maybe put on even like this shirt, like you don't see anything on the neck. It starts off where somewhere around here.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even see myself in here. Oh, it does go low. So there's supposed to be a top of a dagger that came through there. We just never did it, but it's all
Yeah.
my collarbones and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So you like the option of being able to kind of clean up your appearance and look a little bit professional when you need to.
Yeah, and even having like hand tattoos and a suit, I think look pretty rad. But I've always wanted the neck tattoo as well. I just don't know what I want. And the only person that I really love when Timmy B does a neck. I love the way that he just fills out the neck. So if I wanted something, I'd probably have to talk to him about it.
Yeah. It's funny because I was going to get my neck done, but I've always wanted to do like a traditional Polynesian tattoo on my neck.
Yeah, that'd be nuts. Yeah.
But again, I'm at that age now where I'm just like, and I know from people talking about it, how brutal the throat and
Yeah, that'd be terrifying.
I'm just like, yeah, I might just not ever do that.
Right. Like tattooing your Adam's apple, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, so who knows, man. Well, dude, it's been great catching up with you, man. I really appreciate you taking time. I know how busy you are, and I know how it's a big ask to have you come on here and sit down with me for a couple of hours, man. So I really appreciate you making yourself available to me. And
Dude, likewise.
yeah, dude, thanks for being we've always been friends, and it's always been cool and an authentic relationship, dude. And I've always appreciated you, and just always wish the best for you, man. So thanks so much, and congratulations on all your success so far. And I hope you just keep climbing that mountain and just reach all your goals and dreams come true, man.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate you for having me and allowing me to just talk all this shit on this episode.
Yeah, we could go on forever, I'm sure, man. But I'll let you get back to life, dude, and I'll see you on the road soon again, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, dude, just keep grinding, man, and I'll keep paying attention to your YouTube channel, dude. You really do inspire me with your content. Every time I watch your videos, I'm like, you encourage me to level up, man. When I first started doing this podcast, I just had a banner in the background.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, I got to level up, man. I got to get on this pony level, Pony
No, you're
Lawson
crazy.
level,
Look at it.
man.
It's so cool. You have such a cool background. I love it.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you, brother. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Rob. Thank you again. I'll talk to you a bit. Have a good one.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Business of Tattooing. I appreciate you tuning in and being part of this journey to level up the industry one conversation at a time. If you found value in today's episode, do me a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another artist who could use this knowledge. Got questions or topics you want me to cover? Hit me up on Instagram at NoFlashNinja or email me at rob@electrumsupply.com. And remember, tattooing is an art, but running a successful business is a skill. Keep pushing, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time on The Business of Tattooing.